His new editor-in-chief, Bari Weiss, is drooling at the idea of censoring any sort of content that doesn't love Israel. Take a listen to what she recently said at the Jewish Leadership Conference that's drawing a lot of criticism.
All of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hasan Piker and Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes and, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans. And so this is an opportunity to speak for the 75%, for the people that are on the center left and the center right that still believe in equality of opportunity, that still believe passionately in the American project, that still believe in all of the things that everyone in this room believes in, which is liberty and freedom and individual responsibility and in the most basic level, the right to know what is actually going on in the world. Not the world as propagandists and ideologues imagine it to be, but what's actually going on in the world and in your community, so you can make decisions about where to send your kids to school, about where to live, and about how to vote. That used to just be normal, and the goal of what we're trying to do at CBS is to get back to that normalcy. And I feel incredibly energized and enthusiastic because I think that is where the vast majority of Americans actually are.
So I'm going to stop right there. She definitely is going to start talking a little bit more about what she means when it comes to Nick Fuentes and Tucker and who she would rather see platformed. So we're going to play that. But what I find so interesting here is she talks about having people see what's actually going on in the world. And obviously, when she says that, she's talking about hiding everything that makes Israel look bad, because that's what's really going on in the world. When the world loves Israel, Bari Weiss is happy. And that's the kind of censorship and that's the kind of new media you're going to be seeing coming out of the mainstream now that Larry Ellison's son, David Ellison, bought CBS. So that's what you can expect. That's what she's really pushing for. And of course, here at the Jewish Leadership Conference, she's talking to Ben Shapiro, who's also advocating for this same level of censorship and condemnation of voices that oppose Israel's onslaught in Gaza, while supporting individuals that are preaching for Israel's military action. So let's take a listen a bit more about what she has to say.
Well, so that articulation of that set of goals to speak into the lives of the 75%, how are you going to do that? What's your strategy for success?
So I think one of the problems is a lot of people have tried to do centrist news. I know this because I am like the target audience for those things. And the reason that they have all failed is it's like trying to force feed spinach down someone's throat, right? It's felt very like tofu, oatmeal. It's like centrist news is choosing the midpoint between every single topic. It's felt like an absence of charisma and identity. And I, as nostalgic as people might be for an era in which 30 million Americans every night watched Walter Cronkite and saw him as the voice of truth, and I understand why they're nostalgic for that, we're not going back to that. So how do you build trust in a moment of unbelievably low trust in all of our public institutions, especially the mainstream press? I don't think it's by pretending like we can go back to having a view from nowhere. I think it's about who's in the room, right? I think it's about redrawing the lines of what falls in the 40-yard lines of acceptable debate and acceptable American politics and culture. And I don't mean that in like a censorious gatekeeping way. I mean having people that are clearly identifiably on the center left and on the center right in conversation with each other. And we've been doing so much of this at the Free Press. I was in, where was I? Chicago last week, I think. I've lost all track of time, where Dana Loesch, former spokeswoman from the NRA, was debating Alan Dershowitz on guns. Now, these are people that have wildly different opinions on the Second Amendment, and yet showing that they can have good faith, very passionate, very charismatic disagreement and still like each other at the
Let's just stop there. So she's talking about finding people on the center left and center right. And now she's calling charismatic personalities like Alan Dershowitz, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. That's who she deems within center left and center right. So this is the worldview that this lady harbors. Apparently, somebody like Alan Dershowitz, and pretty actually perfect timing to show one of the articles that Alan Dershowitz previously wrote, and it had to do actually with changing the age of consent laws, which he preached. So this is the kind of individual that she is defending. Let me go ahead and show you this. Look, take a look at this article right over here. Dershowitz defends 97 column claiming statutory assault, an outdated concept. 22-year-old article resurfaces as Harvard law professor scrutinized over Jeffrey Epstein's ties. This is the kind of person that Bari Weiss is gung-ho on bringing to CBS. Not anybody that's an extremist like Tucker Carlson for stating that Israel's actions in Gaza are a genocide. Nobody like that. But if it's somebody that promotes lowering the statutory laws so that way 15-year-olds can go do horrible things and be taken advantage of, then she's all on board. So this is the kind of hypocrisy that you're seeing come out of these pro-Israel voices that we've been seeing come out of their voices. And it really just takes an observer to listen to what they're saying for somebody to be like, wow, there's something very wrong with the mindset of these individuals that are so obsessed defending the project in the Middle East called Israel. So let's finish off the last 20 seconds of this and see if there's anything else she wants to say.
At the end of the day, we think it's important. And so for me, it's always about the curation, like who's in the room, how are you showing centrist news, not as the absence of disagreement and the absence of charisma, but explicitly charismatic and disagreeable, and yet doing it in good faith. And the other way you do it is, by being really honest with your audience. Like,
there we go. So apparently to Bari Weiss, being very honest means only focusing on Israel, only making sure that you host things that make Israel look good. So you can't have anybody like Mahdi Hassan or Hasan Piker or Tucker Carlson, because those are extremists. But Randy Fine, amazing. The congressman that talks about watching blood spill down the streets of Gaza, wonderful. Tom Cotton, the congressman always pushing for war, wonderful. Any sort of asset to the military-industrial complex, wonderful. That's the kind of people that she thinks are the mainstream left and the mainstream right there in center. The people advocating for the worst aspects of humanity, just pushing for war, pushing for violence. That's what she deems as acceptable. So pretty crazy stuff. It's nothing out of the ordinary for this sort of mindset when you've been defending Israel's actions in Gaza for 2 years. Anything you say coming out of your mouth after that, it's unsurprising, because if you can justify that much evil, then you really can do anything. And that's what we're beginning to see with these sort of political commentators. So that's everything for this video, guys. If you found it interesting, make sure to go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And please, I'd appreciate a thumbs up as well. It helps my channel grow. Otherwise, I'll see you guys here in a bit in the next video. Take care. Bye.